Welcome to Stretford Paddock. Today's show is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Now more than ever, we rely on the internet, whether that's streaming shows, streaming podcasts, speaking with loved ones, or of course, watching the football. Now more than ever, with our rapidly growing digital footprint, security is a huge concern. Thankfully though, Surfshark have got you covered because Surfshark VPN have got access to servers in loads of different countries, which means that you can change your virtual location to a place where the sport might be free to air, or there are different broadcasting rights, or even just being able to log in to your services from back home if you're abroad. Surfshark VPN also encrypts your online connection, making sure that all of your activities, including streaming matches, remains private and secure. And even if you're not just streaming football, whether it's the latest Netflix show or something on Amazon that you've been wanting to watch, you can watch it no matter where you are. And also, there's plenty of region exclusive stuff that you can get access to by changing your digital location. And by connecting to the optimized servers provided by Surfshark VPN, you may actually get faster streaming speeds and reduced buffering, so you're not going to be waiting ages to see if that last minute shot actually went in. Overall, Surfshark VPN offers you the best flexibility, security, and accessibility to all the streaming and shows you could possibly want, making it the best choice for streaming. And currently Surfshark have a phenomenal deal on. Using the code Paddock, which is easy to remember, you get 4 extra months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, 4 extra months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go and check out the link in the description. And thank you once again to Surfshark for sponsoring the show. Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. My name is Joe, that is Jay, that is Ronaldo Brown. We've got a lot to talk about today, a lot to reflect on, a lot to get through. A little bit of reflection on not just yesterday in the game, because we've done our reviews, but a little bit of a wider look at Manchester United at the moment, what things are, where we're at with things. I feel like 2 games in and it feels as though the world's caving in a little bit, but we can go through all of that. I think we need to talk about Kobbie Mainoo. In particular, I think we need to talk about the improvement so far this season, or maybe lack thereof. We can discuss whether there has been or there hasn't been. But first of all, Ronnie, how are you?
Not great.
I'm going to be using your Twitter as the sort of backbone.
Don't have to use my Twitter.
I'm going to be using it for some things. I can use it.
What?
It's public info.
It is one of your favourite timelines.
I love it. It's one of my favourite timelines. Well, you're on the podcast with me, so sometimes it's nice to reference that. But you're not feeling great.
Nah.
What's up?
No, just a bit deflated after yesterday, to be honest with you. I'd had some expectations going into the game on the back of, I did see some promising things against Arsenal, I can't lie.
Yeah.
But a part of me did think Fulham would tell us more than the Arsenal game did, because ironically a lot of our better games last season came against the bigger sides, where it kind of fitted more the way that we play in terms of countering and transitions and obviously players being up for it, and probably the game states that you're playing when you're playing against the bigger teams where the expectations are a bit less. I knew that Fulham would be a little bit more of a different test, and a type of test that United have struggled with the past couple of seasons. And I did go into it thinking if United perform well, or just as good as against Arsenal and win, that would mean a lot in terms of giving me encouragement for the season. And to be fair, I feel like the first test we got in that way, we didn't come out of it well, apart from the first 10-15 minutes, which I don't know if you can just attribute that to. I think one thing that Amorim has made a difference to the current United team is I think we look a lot fitter, a lot stronger and better physically than we did last season. I don't know if that's because he got a pre-season. United haven't had midweek games yet, because I think there's a couple of weeks in a row now we've started like a house on fire. But then again, when a game then settles down, it becomes a little bit more even kill. We're second best to a Fulham side really in terms of performance levels, to a side that's not spent a dime in the summer window in Fulham, and a team that we really should be beating, because if you look into it deeper, they had some of their better players as well on the bench to start the game.
Jay, how are you feeling at the minute?
Yeah, it's weird because I always feel like this after a draw against a team you expect to beat, especially when you took the lead. I'm not like fuming and angry and like, oh my God, the wheels have come off, but it is a bit deflating. And it was a little bit like that yesterday. Me and you was on a watch along, and those first few minutes in particular, you think, yeah, we're right now, we're going to go. And you said it, you said the watch will end up fizzling out, and then we won't win or whatever, and that's exactly what happened. I think you and Finn were both on it, because Finn said when Emil Smith-Rowe came on, he said he's going to get a goal now, and he did. Like, it is a bit annoying. I just want us to get these. I know it's the most obvious thing any United fan can say. I just want us to win some games and just get rid of these records that I keep seeing all over my social media. Like, it's just cringe and embarrassing, and it's just like 28 points out of 29 games or whatever, or 7 wins out of 29 games or whatever it is, or finish 15th. Now we're sat in 16th. I know it's only 2 games, but you just think, can we just stop all this, man? Just put a run together and just end this, because I like Ruben Amorim. I think he'll come good. It's just this has been so difficult to stomach, and we sort of said, right, me and you were chatting a few weeks ago, we said, right, forget last season, it doesn't count, let's go this season. And after the Arsenal game, I felt alright, as alright as I can feel after a defeat. I didn't feel like angry or frustrated. I thought there was signs there, a bit unlucky at signs, keepers made a hash of it, I get it. It was quite an entertaining game. But Fulham, I thought for big chunks of the game, we weren't on it at all, and it was just annoying, that element of it, and just panicking. And then 1 or 2 of the decisions, I was a bit like, both the manager's decisions and some of the players' decisions that they made up, so just giving away corners at one point. You're like, what are you doing? Like, it's just, come on, man, we need to be a little bit better. So I expect us to be better, but we need to be sooner rather than later, because you look at the next 2 games. Grimsby, come on, League 2, let's not even be silly. Burnley at home, because after that game, then you've got, I think, is it City and Chelsea and Liverpool, not too far in there, right? Like, let's not.
They're the games we play all right in.
To be fair, I was just thinking as you were talking there, Ronnie, I think, was it last season I know this is proper 2-bit, because as a United fan, I shouldn't even be saying this, but we beat City away and we drew them at home. We drew with Arsenal at home. We drew with Liverpool, I think, at Anfield, and we beat Arsenal in the FA Cup. Like, I know it's not like, well, get the fucking bunting out, but they were positive results against the top teams. I know City were going through when we beat them at the Etihad, but we still won at the Etihad. So I understand your point, but yeah, it's just, I'm anxious for us to get rid of these records, man. I just want them gone, because they're just embarrassing.
That set piece failure that we've got as well, it is a major concern. And I think of playing in a system where you got 3 centre-halves as well, and there's a decent amount of size in the team actually, because even you got like Casemiro, and he's almost like a 4 centre-half in terms of how good he is in both boxes, aerially. It is a massive issue, and obviously that goes back to the keeper as well, because what you're going to find is if you are weak from set pieces, which is one of the most important areas, coaches often say the 2 most important areas are both boxes, and usually the teams that are best in those areas end up winning out in the end. And there'll be games where United are actually going to play well and dominate, and then we'll have that lingering vulnerability to a set piece that can just swing a game in the team's favour. And that's one of my concerns as well. It's just United need to find some way of playing that is sustainable and something that we can hang our hat on, that we play well at every game. And it feels like you go into each game, you're not sure what that is. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's a bit of an issue after this.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot of, or a certain amount of good things from the game yesterday. I think some of the stuff we played in the first 15 minutes is better than we've played in years. And even under Ten Hag, when things were going well, I think that at times we couldn't sort of cut through teams the way we did in the first few minutes. Obviously that's just not enough. The other thing though that is, I mean, it should sort of go without saying, but I don't think it does, is the fact that we don't look that much better defensively in midfield isn't a surprise, because we haven't made any changes in those areas. Like, we look better in the final third, and in terms of making chances, and in terms of the way, Cunha's just very good on the ball, better than some of the players we had last season. We've not fully seen Sesko yet, so that's still to come. And Bim had a poor game yesterday, but again, he's a very good player. But we haven't bought any midfielders, we haven't bought any defenders, we haven't bought a new goalkeeper yet. So why would those areas look drastically different? I do think they look positionally and sort of effort a little bit different. I think against Arsenal in particular, the effort was excellent defensively, and I think a lot of times that shut down Arsenal attacks before they happened. I think against Fulham though, we ended up having this thing where we saw a lot last season, where we ended up sort of trying to switch the ball, but before we've allowed Fulham to come over to one side, so you switch into a fullback that has got a man on him. So instead of drawing him onto you, playing it back the other way into space, and you can shift everything back across, it's like Fulham had spread out and we're just going long to Dalot or going long to Ahmad or going long to Dorgu, and he's in a duel straight away. So the ball's bouncing, and it just felt like we didn't fully allow the tactics and allow the sort of intelligence of the players to come through. We were doing things out of fear and out of worry, which we saw so much last season. The longer games go on, I predict, well, it doesn't take a genius. I was saying in the first 15 minutes after we started so well, we need to score in this period now, because if we don't, the pressure's going to build and build, the performance is going to get scrappier and scrappier, and the longer the game goes on, the more likely it is that Fulham score and not us. And I know we did score first after that, but the game followed that path. And obviously that's a worry. You can't just be a team that, unless you score in the first 10 minutes, crumbles, or the pressure just keeps building and inevitably you concede, because that's how teams lose games. I think we've scored the fewest number of goals in the first half of games of almost anyone in the league in the last 12 months. So that has to change. But starting by getting a couple of goals when we're on top would be a decent start, and obviously then go from there.
It definitely would, because then obviously it does ease the pressure as well a little bit. But I don't know, because in a way it is true to look at things and be like, it's only been 2 games, but I think it would be a little bit disingenuous to look at it like that, in terms of the fact that obviously Amorim himself has been here since November. Do you know what I mean? And people say obviously he hasn't had a full-on transfer window, but you can't look at it and think we won 7 games out of, was it 27 before the season began?
Yeah.
In the league, which isn't good enough. And the league form is where managers earn their salt, especially at clubs or bigger clubs. That's just a fact, and that's a matter of fact of things. He did need, there was a certain lingering pressure where he did need to start the season with at least one statement in the first few games. And obviously we got Burnley next. I think Grimsby is one of those weird games that we don't like, and it's because it feels like a lose-lose. If we win the game, it's almost like, well, who cares? We should have won it anyway. Yeah. But if you lose the game, then obviously the world...
Disaster
in the world is ended. So that's... Midweek is kind of a lose-lose in a way from him anyway, so it's really more looking at Burnley and then looking at City and Chelsea. And I think the pressure has started to ramp up on that, because it's not even just about the fact of winning games and losing them, it's always the performance levels as well. Because last season we can look at Arsenal and be like, I think we performed better than Arsenal and should have probably won the game. People argue we didn't create enough clear-cut big opportunities, but then again, Arsenal, you don't get many better defensive teams than them in Europe, so you can always caveat that in that way. So I thought, that's why I looked at it and thought Fulham yesterday was going to tell me a whole lot more.
Yeah. And
then I think pretty much 70 minutes of that match yesterday just was really concerning, because it just looked like a microcosm of what I saw for the majority of Amorim's tenure last season. And I've been desperate since the start of the season, which has only been obviously a couple of games, but I think you can see enough in 180 minutes, to be honest with you, to give me something to get behind. And if I'm more worried than optimistic, I can't lie, about how it's going to materialise, because I'm looking at it thinking, with the additions we've made, the money we've spent, we should be going against the teams of Fulham where we have better players than them, and I don't think the game should have went the way it went yesterday.
How worried are you, Jay? Ronaldo seems pretty, not panicky obviously, but he just said he's worried.
You can't not be a little bit concerned. Like, just the fact that I feel like I've been here before saying, we'll be all right, the next game is a winnable one or whatever, and it hasn't been. But I don't know, maybe call it a hunch, call it my gut, call it whatever, because the sort of evidence isn't great.
Yeah.
I still get the feeling this manager will come good, and I still get the feeling this group of players will come good. I think that Cunha and Bumo and eventually Sesko will score goals. I think they'll score lots of them. And I think defensively there, I like Yoro and De Ligt and whether it's even Aidan Heaven or Harry Maguire or Mazraoui when he comes back into the team, or whoever it seems to be the sort of the combination is. Luke Shaw, sorry, I've almost forgot. It seems to there's a lot of strong defenders there. I still like Ahmad, I still like Dorgu. So I look at the team and go, okay, it is a good team for me. I think you'd be insane not to have any concerns, but ultimately, I think if we were to fast forward to the end of the season, I think Ruben Amorim will still be the manager, and I think we'll have European football, and I think that'll be enough progression for everyone to be okay with it. I know it's a low bar, and United should be aiming higher, but let's not forget we've just finished 15th. Let's be real.
Yeah, the personnel group that United have and the quality of players that we've added, United are more than good enough in terms of, from player standpoint, to finish in European football. I think that should be minimum what we should accept, really. Last season, 15th was wasn't really a representation of the squad, in my opinion. And I think with the additions we've made and the talent level and the full-time international players that United have in the group, there can definitely be improvements made. I've been clamouring for a midfielder for ages. Obviously, that hasn't been addressed, and I think that's United are definitely going to feel the negative effects of that if that isn't before deadline day.
Does it give you some hope though that they clearly want to address that?
Yes, it does. And obviously, you want it to be the right person.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially in a system which does ask a lot of the midfield players, of the midfield too. Especially when a majority of Premier League teams play with midfield three, so you likely are going to be outnumbered in some way. And obviously you've got the likes of Bruno, who doesn't necessarily suit there. When you've got your best player that doesn't suit the position he's playing in, that's a problem. You had Ahmad, who was one of our best performers over the past 18 months. Do you really maximise him in a position that you play him? I think there's just a lot of concerns and a lot of issues. And then when you get a combination of United aren't winning games he should, or getting or scoring goals, because we've scored 1 goal in 2 games now, while spending 200 million on the attack, you start to wonder whether the issues are a little bit more deep rooted than just throwing money at the attack.
When you say about 2 games though, to me that's why I'm not too worried yet. And obviously I can't forget everything that happened last season, but I'm going to try to talk about last season as little as possible, while still, like I said, I don't want to be blind to how bad it was, but I just think that it's not fair on the manager or the players to look at last season as though it's just an exact continuation into this season. I think the situation that they came into was horrific. There's so much turmoil and change in and around him. The people are changing all the time. The players and the squad has had to be sort of stripped back and kind of looked at again, with some of the biggest earners being kicked out. I do think that like I said, I'm not going to pretend that last season didn't happen, and it will cost him his job more quickly this season because of last season. So you have to acknowledge it. But I don't know. I don't want to say clean slate because I think that's too much. But
would you acknowledge Amorim's time last season if it was brilliant and he won Europa League final and he won 20 of 27
of course,
games
but
in the
we
league?
wouldn't be talking like this if that.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. I do acknowledge it. I'm not saying I'm completely ignoring it and pretending it didn't happen, but I want to see things be different now, and I'll give him a bit more leeway than I would have done if he'd have started this season, or let's say he'd have come in the summer and we'd had the 29 games that we've had with 28 points, and we were literally on 28 points after 29 games of a new season, full pre-season, full transfer window. Then I would be saying this isn't right. Something's not working here. But at the moment, I think that when he came in was the worst time to come in. The fact that we got Dorgu, but that wasn't enough. He still got to a cup final. There's still problems that haven't been addressed. I don't know. I don't want to start putting pressure on managers too quickly, personally. And there's a lot of chat in the comments. Let me get some of the comments, because there's loads of people with different opinions to me, of course. Sub N says, no excuses now. And Burmo, Cunha, Sesko, cumulative, not scored 1 goal. And that's on Amorim. Want him to succeed, but this stubbornness will cost him. Corin Howarth says, hello, first time super chat, thank you very much. Imagine you're the manager, give us your lineup and tactics briefly. Go on then, Ronnie, I'll start with you. If you're the manager, what are you doing?
I'll just go, if I think the most balanced the way the team could look is in a 4-3-3. With everyone fit, I'd have Mazraoui right back. We at the moment don't have a keeper. I'd go to a centre half pairing of Euro and De Ligt. Go Dorgu left back, or you could play Shaw. But I'm not sure about Shaw's mobility at the moment. I think he's looked a lot more comfortable in that left centre half role.
Yeah.
I'd go for midfield 3 of Casemiro, Menu, and Bruno as a midfield 3. Yes, and then I'd go for a front 3 of
in what permutation is that? Casemiro sitting a bit deeper, the other 2 roaming. Are they all sort
yes,
of,
not. I'd actually have it not as Bruno was like almost second striker 10, like how he did when he first arrived, but I'd have it almost as a Casemiro slightly deeper than Menu and Bruno. Okay. And then I'd go for a front 3 of them: Bumo right wing, Cunha left wing, and Sesko up top. I think. Why would you not go for that midfield 3? Who would you go for instead?
I think we need a midfielder. I think it doesn't get away from the problem that we still have, that we need a better, leggier, more athletic midfielder. That was my issue.
A midfield 3 though shortens the distances for the midfielders though. So it puts less emphasis on the players needing to be road runners like that.
But then look at how it was under Ten Hag. The biggest gaps, the biggest distances I've ever seen.
Yes, but
and that was in a
he played and built in a 3-1-6. Do you know what I mean? So that was basically his template, and it was always that single in midfield anchor that was getting overrun.
But when any team attacks, you would have to attack with more than 3-4 players. Everyone attacks with more than that now. You couldn't literally have Casemiro and Mainu sitting deep and just have 4 players on the attack. Are you getting your fullbacks pushing up? Is the midfield joining them? Because 4 against the 7 or 8 that the team has sitting deep, you're just never going to score. Do you know what I mean? Every team is taking risks in attack now. Everyone's putting 6 forward or 5 forward. Look at the way City do it. Look at the way most teams are doing that. Do you
and that's why City have had a lot of defensive issues, and they've been caught out continually on transition, because I think the games obviously in the Premier League has gone towards that whole nature of players needing to be athletic, especially in the middle of the park, and it's an area that United haven't addressed. But at the same time, I think they have a lot more quality and a lot more like connection and continuity between each other than United have as well. And obviously Pep been there for 7-8 years, and he's kind of got a distinguished style, but he's also made tweaks along the way. But obviously you asked me what I'd have as a 4-3-3 in a starting lineup, and I think that's what honestly I'd go for.
If you were the manager, Jay, what formation would you play? What would you who would you play, especially in sort of midfield areas? Because I feel like the attack sort of picks itself, doesn't it?
He's going to go 3-4-3 in there. Yeah. So there's no point in deviating from that now. I think it just look insane. I think Dorgu I'd go Dorgu and Ahmad. I know Ahmad had a bit of a stinker at Craven Cottage, but I think he can do a job at wing back. I think that was a bit of a one-off, and we've seen him have good games at wing back. My back 3, Martinez when he's back, obviously, but at the minute, I think you'd have Shaw, Dalitz and Yoro, I think works. Out of the goalkeepers we've got right now, I would go with Onana.
Yes,
I would. In midfield, I've wanted to see Bruno and Mainu given a chance. He won't try it. That'd be my choice. It would. And the front 3, I think, picks itself. It really does. But I just don't get this idea of Bruno and Mainu.
Well, let's talk about that, because you've obviously mentioned it there, Jay, and I did want to get into this. You've been pretty vocal on social media in defence of Mainu, or maybe almost more in kind of having difficulty understanding why Amorim doesn't seem so keen on Mainu.
And it also stems from the fact I just think Mainu's a better footballer than Ugarte, and I think the things that Ugarte is supposedly good at, he's not that great at anyway. I think there's a massive over-exaggeration in terms of Ugarte's defensive qualities as well. And for me, especially in the games where it's United are needing to kick on and win a game, etc., I feel like Mainu would be a better option, and I think he at least deserved. I'm not here clamouring for necessarily to start. I feel like his talent doesn't justify in this United team him getting 0 minutes over the first 2 games. Because you know what? If United were doing well and playing and winning games, you'd be more like, fair enough, without Mainu playing. Fair enough, that's okay. You could also say Mainu has been involved and been in the team in a lot of the performances that have gone wrong under Amorim as well. So I'm going to be fair here. But I still feel like with his talent and ability and what he's shown in big moments on numerous occasions, I don't really see a world where Ugarte should be getting minutes over him, in my opinion.
So you sort of fundamentally disagree with this. It's either Bruno or Mainu for this place, and then next to them can be Casemiro or Ugarte. I kind of see that's what Amorim said.
He's seen it from a profile standpoint of Ugarte and Casemiro are both defensive-minded midfielders, so I've got them in one grouping as one of the two, and Bruno and Mainu are more offensive. Even though I think Mainu can do a little bit of both. He's actually a way above average dueler by every metric as well, Mainu. But it's more so, obviously, his legs and his athleticism. Some may argue it's the system that he's playing in that kind of exposes that even more. But I still think last 20 minutes of a game, last 15 minutes of a game, if you want something a little bit different and you want to, or if you could even change things up, I still think Mainu should play. Because if Mainu is behind Bruno in a pecking order in that way, and Bruno is never injured and never gets taken off, and I don't see a situation currently where United are going to be in games where they're out of sight, where it's very comfortable and you can bring Bruno off, because people are going to still argue why has he took Bruno off if they're still chasing the game or the game's still tight. Do you know what I mean?
Taken Bruno off and it had ended 1-1. Yes, I know right now people will say, oh, well, it was 1-1. But if that had happened, people would be like, why have you taken Bruno off?
I think Ryan's...
Of course it would.
I think him saying the only way that basically Mainu can play is coming on for Bruno or he's Bruno's backup. I think the writing's on the wall because Bruno's going to start pretty much every game and he's going to play more or less 90 minutes every game as well. So that's especially now that United aren't in Europe, so there aren't as many midweek games. I think it's going to be a bit part at most by the looks of things for Kobe.
Jay, on Mainu and the sort of situation with him and Bruno, does he have to play now? I know that obviously he wants to. We all want to see him. When do you start getting worried? How long into the season or into his career or whatever does it actually start to be a problem? Do you think? Because 2 games, who knows what he'll be playing like in 10 games? But when do you start getting sort of bothered and worried about this?
I think going into the international break, if he's not got any minutes by then, if he's not playing against Grimsby or Burnley, then you're basically ostracised.
Yeah.
Really, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've gone, what would that be, 5 games? Or no, we've had 2, sorry, it'd be 4 games without any minutes.
Yeah.
And even you've got to look at this Grimsby game as well. Does he give him a start? Remember Zaha, I think it was, when he played against Norwich in the Carabao or whatever it was, and then played an hour and that was it and didn't play again. I'd like to see if he gives him 90 minutes against Grimsby, you can say, okay, at least isn't against him playing for Manchester United. Yeah. It's not like he's fell out of
done
it.
like a Hoyland or an Anthony or whatever.
But if it's I'll give you a 5-minute cameo maybe at the end of the Grimsby and that's it, then I'd still be like, something's going on here. Yeah. Especially for a game against Leeds opposition where you can afford to do it. So I'm not quite losing mind, even though I love Kobe Mainu. I was a little bit disturbed by him saying it's either Bruno or Mainu, which I think he's basically saying, well, Mainu's not going to play then because Bruno plays every minute of almost every game. Slightly worried there, but I'd really want to see him start a game before the international break. I think that just sort of answers the question of, look, there's a difference between not fancying a player in the system and not fancying a player at all or having an issue with him. So you might not fancy him in this system, you might not think he's your best option. But if you're not giving him any games at all, then you just don't rate him whatsoever. Because I think Kobe Mainu should be starting.
And you know what's also another thing is sometimes I think fans do seem to develop a little bit more of an affinity to the manager, especially when a lot of the fan base have been frustrated over the manager turnover since Fergie, etc. So there's almost this desperation for this person to be the one and this person to be the saviour. That they do get into this belief that every decision they make on a player has to be right or has to be a reason for it, and then kind of backing it. Because I'm seeing a lot of fans actually disparage Mainu in some sort of way in order to kind of get in Amorim's corner for him not playing. And this is one of our best academy products over the past 10 years, and that's not really sat right with me because you could say the same. So when Ten Hag wasn't playing Amad Diallo, and obviously didn't think he was good enough, thought Amari Forson was better than him, etc., because managers have opinions like anybody else, and they have quite a lot of power over the direction of certain players' careers at certain times. Ten Hag goes, Amad plays, and all of a sudden Amad becomes one of our better players, one of our best performers last season, and you see the obvious talent he does have. So we can't be looking at it thinking, because the manager I want to love and I want to do well right now has a certain opinion on a player, let me try and fork out as many negatives of things that he can't do in my mind to kind of justify it, rather than looking at the things that Mainu can do and can bring to the team and can do well. I think as well, there's a few different players that have sort of fit this kind of mould before. I think Amad is one for sure. I think Donny van der Beek is one for sure, and I think Mainu is now sort of entering that bracket. 2 games is very different, by the way. It's not, those two were sat on the bench for seasons, and Amad was sent out on loan, and the difference between the 3, though, for me, in terms of whether you trust the manager's opinion on this or not, I have seen Kobe Mainu have 40 good games for Man United. I don't think Van der Beek had 40 games for us, let alone 40 good ones. And Amad, at the point when Ten Hag left, had maybe half a dozen or so good games for Man United, and obviously I was wrong on that, Ten Hag was wrong on that, whatever. He's a very good player. But we know Mainu is good.
There isn't. You can't tell me now that he's a terrible player that isn't good enough for Man United, good enough for the Premier League. He played for England. He played for Man United every single week. Was one of our best players at 19 or at 18, and played in the Euros final. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. Whether someone thinks Donny van der Beek is a better player than Bruno, which a lot did at the time when he was on the bench, is a very different thing to me than saying Kobbie Mainoo is too good to not play in the Premier League. That is very different. I think, like you said, Jay, we just have to give this a bit of time, don't we?
Yeah.
Because if we're 10 games into the season and Mainoo's played 26 minutes in all competitions, then I think Amorim has to properly explain what the plan is for this kid, because you can't just have someone on ice for your entire tenure. However, if he starts against Grimsby, if we see a situation where at times and Burmo might go off, Bruno goes forward, Kobbie comes in next to Ugarte or whatever, I can see that. If we do get an athletic midfielder, all of a sudden there's a person you can immediately start Mainoo next to in a team, and you could again maybe play Cunha up front, Bruno as one of the 10s, whatever. It is going to be difficult to find a place for him, because you're not dropping Bruno, you're not at the moment dropping Cunha and Burmo, and we're still trying to find a way to fit Sesko in. So unless you can play Bruno and Mainoo next to each other, which is stylistically, I can see why that isn't ideal, and I can clearly see that the manager doesn't want to do that. We need to find some way for him to get minutes though, because otherwise, you might as well loan him out, which obviously I would never want to happen. But if he's never going to play, then why be sat on the bench? Yeah,
exactly. And obviously you say no more excuse. The question for Omar Barada and Jim Ratcliffe, who I don't think Jim Ratcliffe's here for like a long drawn out rebuild. I think he wants success, and I think he wants success quickly. Obviously he's a man in his later years. You've got Omar Barada that kind of laid out that line of, was it 2028 he wants to be challenging for the title buy or winning the title buy?
Project 150.
Which is about 2.5 years away. Sometimes it's when you're looking at players, performances, managers and systems, sometimes you're not really looking just at what you're seeing now. You kind of just got to project it forwards and think, from what I've seen now and what I'm seeing now, can I envision United title challenging or winning the title playing this way? And I think that's the questions that will probably get answered within the next couple months or so, for sure, because we've had the investment. You don't have midweek football in terms of Europe. You've got a whole full week of coaching before each game, which we did have going into the Fulham one. And that's going to be the big question. Yeah,
I agree. We've got loads of super chats. I'll get into some of these and then we'll get your thoughts as well, Jay. Are you wearing my underwear? Says Amorim was United looking at stats or results over him being the right man. Sporting winning 6-0 without Amorim or Gyökeres. He's in over his head. I mean, you say that, but they hadn't won the league in 20 years until he got there. So yes, now they've got a good team that can continue winning afterwards, but you can't just take away all the credit because they've won a few games since he left. It was 20 years since they'd won a league title, and he won 2 in 3 years, so let's not go completely the other way either. J Bone McSwiggins, strange as do you filmed in front of earlier, Joe? That was Old Trafford. Ben Toppin says, being told you're competing with your captain for a spot has to be demoralising. I agree with that. Adam is right, we need to build for the future, and Mainoo is in that. It's got to be a tough one, that you're behind the captain that's never injured, never dropped, and always available. Otherwise you're not playing. FPL Mickle, do you think that Amorim's system is so overly complicated they can only make it work when you prepare for weeks against an opponent versus just a few days? I can't imagine that it is. I can't see why the players he had in Portugal were any smarter or more able to take on information than the players we've got now. I don't think
this is
Portugal.
That's Portugal. This is England. I've said it time and time again. It's different. Do you know what I mean? When you're managing sport in Lisbon, I feel like, and your talent, the talent differential between your team and 90% of the teams you play is much wider than you'll get in England in the Premier League. You can get away with a little bit more like tactical deficiencies and stuff that you can't get away with in this league, and that's just a fact of the matter. So you can't really compare Portugal to the English league, especially when they've done like up-to-date analysis and stuff and talks about how much.
But does that extend to players understanding the system, or do you think that maybe they didn't get his system? Because he's talking about specifically whether the system is too complicated for us to learn it, or do you think that it's not that they don't understand it, it's just that it isn't good enough potentially, or do you think that somehow it is too complicated?
It could be a combination of both. I'm just not sure. I'm just trying to see sustained periods of something to get behind. Because as pessimistic as I can be, when I looked at the Arsenal game, I had a little bit of optimism about it.
Yeah, me too.
And I
let's see if we go back to that. Let's see what the next game and the game after and the game after looks like.
That's what I mean, Joe. Then I went forward and then to the Fulham game.
Yeah.
And the majority of the Fulham game just exactly what I saw last season.
Yeah.
And then it's...
Well, that's why it's going to be progress, though,
it's a bit of a gut punch, but that's the thing. What have you seen more of?
Massively, way more.
You see longer periods of playing poorly.
Yeah.
Rather than sustained periods of doing well.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's
the issue. That's what I mean, and that's what we need to see this season. You need to go from it being 90-10 or 95-5 in terms of not good enough to good enough to maybe we go 50-50 this season, and then next season is 75-25, and then you pushing up into the top 2 or 3 positions. Then it has to be 95-5 the other way, where they get the system is locked in, the players are right, the manager's back, all that. I don't think this season is going to go from being how bad it was last year to amazing all the time. But if we can see most weeks, most of the game, it is more good than bad, I would take that just for this season. But we need to see it. Teeman says the midfield argument is weird. Arsenal have Rice and Zubimendi and had no problems last week. Mainoo will get his time. We're 2 weeks in, lads. I do get that, but I don't see who our Rice is in that. I don't see where.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Innit?
We need the
Do you
Rice.
know what I mean? Like, it's just, the sad thing is, it's like, even though we made like a load of signings and we've got players that we rate and stuff, it always feels like we're still not there. And it's like, we need that. And I feel like we've been here before.
That's where you need your manager to optimise all the players and to get the best out of all the players. And unfortunately, to be honest, Amorim's not doing that, to be honest.
I remember a couple of years ago, we went to the Emirates and we lost. And people were saying, when Sofyan Amrabat comes into this team, we'll be fine. People were saying that, like, it was like, because we were about to sign him, and it was like, that's going to be the player that's going to fix everything. And it's not always the case, is it? Because even if you go out and let's say you get a Carlos Baleba at rate, I think he would massively improve this team. You still need to be able to do it without him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because you still have a situation where he might be suspended or injured. And it can't be like, we're only good if he plays. Like, you have to be able to...
This notion concerns me, though. When you have to say that, when you're saying a team and a manager needs basically everything perfect in terms of personnel and stuff like that to start seeing good things, you got to start asking yourself how good the manager actually is. Yeah, if you want to be honest.
I agree with that, but then also
no manager gets everything perfect.
No manager gets everything perfect. But how many managers win the league with teams with massive holes in them? That also doesn't happen very often either, does it? So like, Ten Hag got third with a team that had weaknesses. You can do well with a team with weaknesses, but if you really want to push back to the top, you don't get to be a team with a slow, old, understaffed midfield and a bad goalie. Typically, that'll be enough to rule you out of anything major. Yeah. So I do get your point. You don't get to have 11 world-class players before you can go, hey, look, I'm not 15th anymore. That's absurd. But you do need a good team to be challenging, I think.
You do, but the United grouping of players, especially after the summer window.
Yeah, but let's wait for 10 games first.
It's not. Because even last year, it wasn't the 15th best team in the league by talent and personnel. 100%. It was made to look that way, but it wasn't. It wasn't the case.
Peter Kelly, who's been a member for 61 months. Thank you, Peter. It's annoying me that Mount is ahead of Mainoo. I've seen nothing from Mount to justify him being above Mainoo. I don't see why Mount is so highly rated. I think we're starting to see a little bit more out of Mount, but yeah, we've definitely seen more from Mainoo in the last sort of 18 months, haven't we? Akash K, I personally think it's time we experimented with a 3-5-2, but it's too late for that now, I wonder. However, I agree with Jay that it's only 2 games in. Exactly, we need to bear that in mind a little bit. I know it's not 2 games in totally, but let's stay calm a little bit. Sam Ford said selection headaches solved with 4-3-3, plus we'd have a solid centre. 3 centre-backs is fine versus a big 6, but a waste versus Fulham. Need a full midfield to own games. Mainoo is being protected at all costs because of his lack of athleticism. He needs a proper partner in the 2. Without it, our system is setting up to fail. That's according to Mike.
Yeah, it's true. Because I'm even looking at the game yesterday. What was Fulham's midfield 3? Sander Berge, Lukic, and an 18-year-old academy player, Josh King. Do you know what I mean? And then Iwobi was kind of basically
playing around,
just drifting.
There was a worry about a space that Iwobi found himself in.
So it was Iwobi class now. Like, would he get into the United team?
No.
Exactly. So that's
We
what I
make
mean.
him look good at
so
times.
United,
It's been a trait, hasn't it, every time we play Fulham?
Happened against Everton as well.
Yeah. Why does it will be suddenly we make it? I think we make him look good.
Yeah.
So exactly. Why are we making him look good though?
Too much space.
He's the sort of player we always struggle
Why,
against.
why is there too much space?
Because there's just gaps there
Exactly.
between the defence and midfield, perhaps.
Because you talk about personnel and sometimes a lot playing the players or the players do cross the white lines, but then look at yesterday's game and think Fulham had 55% possession, higher XG, more shots at goal, and then we talk about how bad a midfielder we have and how like we need the midfield balance to be better and to invest. Then you look at their team and think Sander Berge, I think he's a good player. I thought we should have got him, but many people scoffed at him. Lukic, do you know what I mean? Who Fulham fans were saying was one of his best games he's had. Usually doesn't play that well, but United have a way of making every opposition midfielders look brilliant. And then an 18-year-old Josh King, and that was their midfield trio. Why should Fulham control the game and have a better performance than us throughout the whole 90 minutes?
I think that's a bit.
Mostly for the most. Yes, they did.
I don't think they controlled the game. I don't think any team controlled that game. I think it was a bit of a mess of a game for
especially
a
the second half.
I think Fulham were good in the
miles
second half. They had a section
when
where they controlled it for
it
sure.
Sort of the pendulum swung a couple of times in the first half. I think the massive issue we had was every time they had a corner, we looked like we were just.
Yeah, that was horrific.
Like, I felt like it was almost like they'd got a penalty.
They did have spells where
even though ironically they didn't score from it.
Yeah,
any of them. And then in the second half, there was a spell where for about 15 minutes it was so scrappy. It really was. Yeah. And I don't think anyone covered themselves in glory. Then there was a spell when they were really on top. And then towards the end, me and you were talking about this, I think, upstairs, where bizarrely I thought I was really worried. I thought they're going to get a winner here. And then they just started time wasting.
Last 7 or 8 minutes, they kind of went into.
And I'm thinking,
with this mode,
if I'm looking at this game, looking at the United defence, how nervy we were, looking at the space that Alex Iwobi,
I was all right with it. Honest to God, when I saw him doing that, I was like, first.
I'd be like, if I was Michael Silva, I'd be like, what are you doing? Attack. These are here for the taking. And yet, they just were like, taking ages with a throw-in, going down unnecessarily and taking ages, getting up. And I was like,
do you know...
Have you not been watching this game that you're part of?
You've got a good chance of getting something better.
Fulham's side, from the Fulham point of view, a lot of their fans have actually left that game. He's went into that game and matched our system, which they normally don't play. And I think they went for a more pragmatic lineup, and they didn't start a few of their players that they usually do. And I think a lot of their fans were saying he thinks that Marco Silva went into that thinking too much. It's Manchester United. It's a big team and almost gave us a little bit too much respect. And I think in the second game, I think they did a sub to bring Robinson on, and they switched it back to a 4-3-3 and put on some of their Jimenez and Harry Wilson and Smith Rowe. And all of a sudden, we couldn't get near them for a good 20 or 30 minutes. And for me, I know you're saying control words, I thought they got into the final third way too often.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? And it was like, but I don't know. I just don't think. I looked at that starting lineup as well for Fulham and thought, I even tweeted it. I thought, I'm quite positive we get like a 3-1 result today. Yeah. Especially with our record that we do have against Fulham and our record at Craven Cottage. And obviously didn't materialise. Cunha started like a house on fire. A lot of individualism. Bayern over the top. Great football from him. And then we looked bright to start with, which has been in both games. And then I feel like when the game settles down and that, and we're like, you're meant to kind of like stamp your authority on matches, especially against the lesser teams. There. We just never do that.
No, we don't. Tiemann says, we finished 15th. Why do people suddenly think we can compete? It was always going to be a long process. Matthias, lose Mainu would be terrible. Academy player and most of all a young talented player with a future ahead of him. Maybe it's time to cash in on Bruno. Tommy Boy, Amorim should take the bomb squad and play a five-a-side. Hashtag Amorim out. Imagine that, him just coaching a five-a-side team with Anthony, Malacia, Rashford and Sancho in it. That'd be awful. Norvik says, week 1 the team looks good regardless of the loss. Week 2, sack the manager and sell Bruno. This fan base is a joke. Learn patience. This will take time. We've also got AD saying 24% win ratio is poo. Just like our fan base, all we care about is a piss up on the weekend. Interesting. Feels like they are being bad to show that they're not glory hunters. Oh, that they like us being bad to show they're not glory hunters. Harry Krishnan, compare Bruno and Mainu last season and you'll see who deserves to start. Mainu should show it on the field before making demands. I don't think he is making demands, but I do understand that point. You know, if you had to play, if you've decided you're only playing Bruno or Mainu, I don't think anyone would say you should play Mainu week in, week out and leave Bruno on the bench.
That's why that troubled me when he said that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, me and you were chatting earlier, and in the history of Manchester United, I don't think there's been a player who's played more minutes per night or more minutes per game than Bruno Fernandes. Like, he never misses a game. He barely ever gets subbed. Like, out of everyone, even the likes of Roy Keane and Brian Robson and players, and Scholes, like, got injured and missed games and got suspended and missed, like, 5 or 6 games a season. He misses 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Like, his record is ridiculous. So when you're saying that player who's my captain, who's never injured, who's always available, who I always pick, who barely ever gets subbed off, I'm only going to play Kobbie Mainoo when he's not about, you're basically saying I'm not going to play Kobbie Mainoo.
There's something
like that. Is the way to word it like that,
yeah.
to say it that way, was as a Kobbie Mainoo fan, was probably the worst way he could have said it for me, because that made me think, Jesus Christ, you're basically saying chance. That's why I think when I was going back to your earlier point of like, is Kobbie Mainoo going to get any minutes? So that's why I'm looking at it thinking, technically, I mean, he still can play Mainoo and Bruno on the same pitch. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think, for example, the Grimsby game would be a perfect game where you could rest Bruno and play Mainoo and get away with it. It's League 2 opposition. Let's not be stupid. And you can still have a lot of other players as well. And also, Kobbie Mainoo is easily far and away better than any player that Grimsby have got by a country mile. So I don't buy any idea that you've got to have Bruno and not Mainoo for that game. Like, surely that's one game where he does start.
Tiemann says, everyone that's screaming for Thomas Frank, remember how Ange started at Spurs.
You said that not so long.
Yeah, and obviously we'll see what I think. Frank is a very good manager, but I just think this whole look at Thomas Frank. There's 2 games
should infect him soon enough.
Yeah, it's 2 games.
I think Frank's a good manager. I'm a fan of him, but I think I'm still wary of the club that is Spurs.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure about how much long-term success he'll have there.
For that. Like, I feel like, I don't think he's going to win the title or anything like that, but I feel like he could
have him top 4 every season. He could do like
a bit of a potch and get them competing for top 4, like you say, every season, and maybe get them another trophy. So I think that would probably work out for certainly the next sort of 4 or 5 years before eventually it catches up with him and then they all hate him and they want him sacked.
Yeah, he's gone. Mohammed says 29 games played, 28 points. I've had enough sample size to judge Amorim. That's shocking. Any other club he gets sacked. Rishov says the Fulham game had direct shades of last season. Amorim needs results, and if we're still 15th by September or October, I'm not sure he'll stay. I agree with that. I just don't think we will be there by October. Wally of the week, Jay.
See, I'm going to go back 2 weeks because I missed this out last week. There was one I missed out. I had a list and I missed him off my list. But even though it's 2 weeks ago, I think he deserves it. And it's my man who was getting a selfie with the Glazers.
Oh, yeah,
like, I forgot him. And then I got home and I realised, I thought, how was he not made Wally of the week?
Minutes.
Sorry?
So I'm just glad I got through this. I was actually quite concerned that I'd struggle.
Why? You tired?
No, not even tired, just deflated, man.
Yeah,
deflated.
I'm sorry. Sad in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you just had enough.
Why was he taking a selfie with the Glazers, do you think?
Because he's an idiot. Like, there's no, it didn't look like it was a trolling thing where you go, I'll take a selfie, oh, you're a dickhead.
No, it didn't.
It looked like it was genuinely, here's someone who's ruined my football club. Let's have a picture. Like, do you know what I mean? But I don't get it.
No.
It's like the most insane thing I've ever seen. But you cannot be a United fan and not know what the Glazers have done to Manchester United Football Club. Yeah. You've obviously recognised him because you've gone, there's a guy I want a selfie.
You're not someone that
you've
just
stopped him for a selfie.
Really and
you've gone, can I have a selfie with someone who, more than any person in the history of this club, has done their best to wreck it for their own personal gain? And you want a picture with him? For what?
A little
snappy to put on the mantelpiece. Yeah, keep the kids away from the fireplace.
Isn't it? Ronnie?
Wally of the week.
Yep.
Oh, Joe, you didn't give me any heads up for this.
I mentioned it before the podcast. I like to go first. We do it every week.
I've got to say, it could be the referee weekly, to be honest. And it's definitely for Trafford getting away with the assault on Kudus.
That was insane.
And then it being justified as always by Dermot Gallagher in it. But
what did he say, Dermot?
It was similar to he's not quite as bad, but similar to the whole Mateta against Millwall. But I just thought, how was that not a foul, and how could that not be a sending off?
You know what annoys me about it as well? You're right. It's the commentary team play it down a little bit. They mention it and they question it, but they don't
And
acts in a way that it's like, that is an amazingly bad decision. They just go,
yeah. As well.
I could say Gary Neville as well. Gary Neville annoyed me in the Leeds Arsenal game.
Why?
Go on, I didn't.
He almost got this mad excitement when Gyökeres scored.
Yeah, he loved it, didn't he?
And that rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
It was like, this was a big goal, that, like, proper raving about it. And I was like, nah, man, get in the bin.
Yeah. The James Trafford thing is ridiculous. And it's not just a Man United thing, but I find it easier to pick a United person to fill this gap.
Yeah.
But if that was a keeper that had the reputation that Onana has, it's immediately a red card. No question whatsoever. If that's a keeper that's seen as a little bit calamitous or a bit silly, even Emi Martinez is someone who's people think he's got a bit of a sort of stupid streak in him. If that's Martinez doing the exact same thing, sent off instantly. Yeah. But it's like James Trafford is this upcoming young goalkeeper. He's just gone back to City. He's their new goal. He's probably going to get it right. It's a foul and a handball and a red card. Clearly.
So then Pep after the game was moaning about the penalty he thought they should have had. I think you're shameless. You got comfortably beaten. You should have been down to 10 men. Just own it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it is frustrating.
In terms of my Wally of the week, I mean, it might be Bruno Fernandes, which might be a bit harsh.
Because the penalty.
Because the penalty, and he just lost his head, didn't he? And I love him. He's my favourite player, and I won't sell him, and I won't drop him, and I won't do anything other than just say he had a right stinker yesterday. And we needed it. We needed a goal. We needed a win. We needed him to show people that he can play there. Because also, and I love Kobbie Mainoo, and he needs to get more minutes. If we'd have won that game comfortably yesterday, this whole Mainoo discussion would be 10 times quieter. And not because he doesn't deserve to play, but look at fucking 8 seasons into Phil Foden's career at Man City. Any given game, he isn't guaranteed to start, and he could even, he could start 3 games in 2 months, and people aren't really kicking off because when you're winning, when you're in a good team, when it's a well-oiled machine, the manager's allowed to do what they want, and it's all fine. And I just think, come on, Bruno, we needed that yesterday. We needed a win. We needed a goal, and he had the chance. And I don't call him out very often, and like I said, I still love him, but fucking hell. What a bad time to miss a penalty that was.
I know.
We just needed some momentum bad. But we'll turn it around.
Also as well, like the whole, it was just everything about it, the ref and the apology and all this nonsense. I'm just like, I hate it because we sort of all, well, no, me and you did. I can't remember what you said about Bruno and selling him in the summer. I don't think you were on it. Am I getting that wrong? Or I don't want to misquote you.
I could 100% see why people thought it would have been the right idea, but I feel like it wouldn't have been a decision I would have made just out of the fact that United are in a position where you need your captain, your biggest character, and when you're on the brink of a cultural reset, I think there's a lot of things that Bruno probably brings to the team that aren't just tangible in terms of on field. But as for selling him and the money, hindsight will always be 20/20. I was split down the middle because I could see a reason for both ways.
Yeah,
but I think in this current system, in this system that we're currently playing, I think Bruno is dispensable. If he was playing in a system that probably maximised him better, as he's played in previously, as just behind the striker, or almost like playing as a 10. So I think he was even played almost like a second striker for a lot of the games, I think, when he first arrived.
Mate, he was a false 9 in the FA Cup final, do you know what I mean?
But in this current setup, you're not going to get the best out of him.
Well, this is the problem I've got, is because now that came up, and it was like there was the money, and then when he has a game like yesterday, and everyone is on it now, everyone is saying, should have took the money. Why, you're wrong, you should have kept him. It's just like, look, I know it's a cliche, but, form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he will come good. It's slightly disconcerting. We don't seem to have that combination in midfield that's not quite right. So that's my own
against Arsenal. It's like he wasn't great, but it's one bad game and one not great game.
Yeah.
And we're fucking back to this thing of his shit. He's got to go.
It's not that though. It's not that. It's just getting criticism. It's not. Always extreme.
No. But there is a lot of you know not, but there are a lot of people that are saying, you just put in your search on Twitter or wherever, Bruno Saudi or Bruno.
But then also,
do you really think
whatever
you really
expecting
to get on this courteous discussion on Twitter?
No.
Also, as well, I think it was Bruno's decision. He didn't want to go. Like, allow him. If he doesn't want to move to Saudi Arabia, then it's up to him, innit? Yeah. No, you have to. Yeah. You have to go and play in a league that's probably about the 18th best league in the world. because we want the dough. Of course he doesn't have to.
No, of course. Right, that's going to be all from us. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Jay, as always. Thank you at home as well. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, if you're listening on Spotify, we're also available on YouTube. And if you're just watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts as well. We are there. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.